Hello my friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today in the garage we have our very first Perfect Grade review on the channel, and it just so happens to be the newest release from Bandai, and the latest release in the Perfect Grade line. This colossal kit is the Perfect Grade Unleashed New Gundam, a 1/60 scale model of one of the most iconic mobile suits in all of the Gundam franchise. The new Gundam is a fan favorite for many people, landing in a lot of fans' top 5 Gundams of all time. This is an extremely exciting release as it's been 6 years since our last Perfect Grade, and this kit is quite a step up over the original Perfect Grade Unleashed RX-78-2. So let's not waste any more time, let's dive right into this review and see how perfect this model kit really is. I have a feeling it isn't just for show. The kit that you'll be seeing on screen today has been straight built out of the box, with the in-box decals applied and with full panel lining applied to the inner frame and outward armor. If you like this video, please drop a like as it really helps the channel out a lot. Maybe even consider subscribing. We're always talking Gundam on this channel, and it would be great to have you here in the Gunpla Garage community. Now, onto the review. For this review, I'm going to show off a little bit more of the unboxing. Given its price point and availability, I want those curious to see what it's like. This box is nearly twice the size of other Perfect Grade boxes. Within the main box are 3 sub-boxes. One box contains most of the materials for the inner frame, mostly gray colored runners. One box includes most of the armor, as well as the other colored runners. The final box is for all the fin funnels. The artwork on the face of the boxes gives you a good representation of what parts are contained inside. We don't talk about box presentation much on this channel, but this PGU box is top tier quality. Inside the 3 boxes we find all of our runners, of which there are 78 total. Across all these runners are 1,299 parts. These parts are molded in 17 colors. These colors being clear yellow, yellow, clear green, gray, gold-plated, copper gold-plated, red, white, black, dark gray, light gray, dark blue, clear pink, silver, green-plated, brown, and finally clear. The previous record for the Gundam kit with the most parts was set by the Perfect Grade GP01, which was 1,212 parts, so the new beats it out by a small margin. There is one multicolored runner throughout this entire kit. The rest of the runners are snap-gated. These sub-runners have a small icon on them indicating which section of the kit they belong to, whether it be the head, torso, waist, arms, legs, backpack, funnels, or weapons. This helps Bandai save money by molding all these parts on one runner in the same color, and saves the builder time. With this we can assort our runners by limb section rather than having to sort through 78 runners just to find one piece. This was really nice forward thinking and something I'm glad the new carried over from the PGU RX-78. You may still need to take up your entire kitchen table to build this kit, but at least it'll be an organized mess so it's easy to work with. The aesthetics of the new Gundam have been updated for this release. This is a decently far departure from anime accuracy. The proportions maintain the long leg and small torso look, but the look of the armor here is more angular and defined, with sharper body lines being displayed. This gives the new Gundam a more modern look, which I personally find to be more appealing. I was never huge on the long face of the original new Gundam, so I find these updates look really good to me. The outward armor doesn't have many panel lines. Instead, these details are handled by different armor panels butting up against one another. This effect is elevated when a white armor panel will butt up against a light gray armor panel, creating that distinct panel line between the two of them. This creates the display of a Gundam with large amounts of surface detail, but saves the builder a lot of time during the panel lining process. There are little pockets throughout the kit where the sections of the inner frame will show through, and even armor separation gimmicks as the kit is articulated. One thing I found interesting was the omission of the psychoframe parts we saw with the new Verka, as well as the metal structure. Ironically, the look of the PGU is a far departure from anime accuracy, but doesn't include the psychoframe pieces, and the more anime accurate versions do have the increased psychoframe pieces. Kinda funny how that all plays out like that. All around, I highly enjoy the updated aesthetics of the new Gundam here. This is a great updated look to an iconic design. Assembling the new Gundam can look like a daunting task at first glance. Luckily, with the runners being snap-gated, it makes it easy to cut down on your time searching for parts. Once your prep work is completed and you're ready to start building, it is fairly straightforward. The bulk of your build is going to be the inner frame, which took me a little over 12 hours to build, as it incorporates every form of modeling tech that Bandai uses. There's locking pegs and sockets here, as well as parts that lock 2 pieces together, like the silver ring on the leg connection in the waist. It's a very complex build when you take a step back and look at all that you accomplished after this kit is completed. The way Bandai spoon-feeds the builder clear, concise instructions makes a complex build like this palatable, easy to understand, and even fun to build. I've said for a long time that perfect grades are usually easier builds over other grades as the parts are much larger. That's a theme that continues here, with the parts of this build being very large that are easy to snap together and assemble with the perfect clutch power we come to expect from Bandai kits. Even though most of these parts are large on this kit, there are a handful of small parts as well. These smaller parts are primarily in the head, with the smallest being the clear green eyes for the detailed eye frame. These small pieces are few and far between, so if you have an aversion to small parts, just know they're here, but they're in very small and easy to handle quantities. Beyond the plastic portion of the build, there are more additions to this perfect grade. Just like the RX-78, the photo etched parts are continued onto this build. Also like the RX-78, these parts are a little difficult to pull off their sheets, so you'll definitely want to be careful with that because it would be easy to bend these parts. Also remember that the adhesive side is facing up. The best way I know how to deal with these is to bend the sheet they're on and get the part to kind of lift itself off the sheet and then apply them with tweezers. These photo-etched parts are able to be seen throughout the open hatch gimmick and really do a nice job of adding another layer of detail to an already incredibly detailed frame. Something new with the PGU new is the added cables that are installed onto the frame. The new includes a blue and red wire. This wire is to be installed into small holes and run through the inner frame. On older perfect grades, this wire would have been molded into the inner frame itself, and it would be up to the builder whether or not to paint these parts. It's nice to see this gimmick here as it really gives every builder the chance to spruce up the look of the inner frame no matter their skill level. I really like this addition to the build, and I hope to see it return in perfect grades in the future. Installing these wires was really easy with a set of tweezers. You'll definitely need some precision tweezers for multiple steps of this build, so be sure you have some before you embark on it. This is probably the most complex perfect grade that's been produced so far. It's an incredibly rewarding build that has so much detail in it. Building the inner frame first before applying the armor gives you so much appreciation for the additional detail and gimmicks added to the new. It's something to take a step back and marvel at before you add the armor. This is easily one of the most incredible building experiences I've ever had in a model kit in general. There's truly nothing like it. Like I do with all my builds, before I even embarked on the build itself, I panel lined the kit on the runner. For this, I used my tried and true Tamiya accent color black and cleaned up with Zippo lighter fluid. Panel lining this kit took me an entire 24 hours. Remember, there are 78 runners here, and on those runners, each of these parts are swimming in detail. This is the most detailed inner frame I've seen, with all the parts having so much molded detail and greebling on it. It's honestly a little overwhelming. You're probably saying, Joe, you're a lunatic for panel lining all that detail that won't be seen, and I'm inclined to agree with you. However, when the inner frame was completed and I got a good look at my work, it was an incredibly rewarding thing to see standing there on my build bench in front of me. If this kit wasn't built for a review, I would have dived deeper and painted the little details that you can see throughout the frame. That brings a lot of enjoyment to me personally and really sells this kit as an actual real-life representation of what a Gundam would be if it existed in real life. That's a perspective of Gunpla that I absolutely love. Now, the panel lining itself is a bit of a mixed bag. While the effects on our work are apparent, the steps to get us there are incredibly time-consuming. The panel liner flows well through a little more than half the details of the inner frame, and it flows really well through the outward armor panels. The inner frame was so busy with greebling, I eventually started dousing parts with the Tamiya liner, like how a 40k builder dunks their minis in Nuln oil. This effect works surprisingly well once cleaned up with lighter fluid, and it helped fill in those areas on the frame that may not have been as deep as others. The areas that the liner flowed really poorly on are the backside of the outward armor panels. The panel lines themselves may be well chiseled on the outside armor, but the backside panels are fairly shallow. But Joe, why does this matter? Because you can see some of these backside panels through the open hatch gimmick. This is really only going to matter to fans of detail like myself, but if you really want to go all the way with this kit and panel line those backside armor panels, just know you're going to be spending a lot of time cleaning up and relining with the Tamiya, or you'll need to spend a decent chunk of time rescribing these panel lines. You could very well mask and spray these areas with paint, but this is going to extend this build exponentially. You might even be better off panel lining these areas with a pen. It'll be quite the project, but it will be absolutely incredible to see something like this completed with that much detail. Those options are there if you really want to go all out, but for your average builder who mainly focuses on the outward armor, you can rest assured that the panel lining here is easy and concise. Like mentioned in the aesthetic portion of the review, a lot of the outward armor panel lines are handled by multiple panels butting up against one another, separating from color to color. This acts as a panel line and adds that detail without requiring you to line it. With the panel lining, it's ultimately up to you. You can make this kit as complex or as simple as you want. The color separation of the outward armor makes this kit look great out of the box, but if you wanted to go that extra mile and detail this kit to incredible degrees, you could do that also. There's something here for every type of builder. The seam lines for the Gundam are nearly non-existent. Once the model is completed with the outward armor applied, any seam line introduces a different armor panel and is usually a different color. This adds great color contrast and depth to the mobile suit and keeps the pesky seam lines hidden in plain sight. Now for the weapons, there can be seam lines, like the beam rifle for example, has a seam line down the middle of the bottom of the rifle. The seam line, however, is asymmetrical, being at the edge of a valley in the seam line, meaning you can panel line both these lines, hiding the seam line in plain sight. That's really all I have to say about seam lines. There's really not many here on display on the new Gundam, which is amazing. What a godsend that is. The color accuracy for the perfect grade new Gundam is in the name itself. It's perfect. There's nothing you need to paint on this kit for it to be color accurate to what we see in the line art or the anime. Anything that you'd like to paint is up to you, but will primarily be on the inner frame to bring out some of the detail that's molded into these pieces. The new comes with 3D stickers that we saw debut with the PGU RX-78. These stickers are difficult to apply and probably the hardest part of this build if I'm to be honest. You need some really precise tweezers to pick these up off the sheet properly. There were a handful of times applying these stickers I had to use another set of tweezers to push the sticker off my first set of tweezers to get the sticker into its location. Applying these stickers was like surgery at times. The best part about these stickers is they're totally optional, so you don't really have to place these on the kit if you don't want to. I did for the sake of this review, but if I built another one, I'd definitely opt for paint rather than these stickers. When this kit was first announced, I was so incredibly worried we would have to wait for waterslide decals to come out, either through G Rework or Delpy. Thankfully, that is not the case, as the caution stickers we saw with the RX-78 is not present here. Instead, the new comes with a set of its own waterslide decals. We can complete this kit to the highest degree of quality out of the box, and we don't have to spend more money to purchase third-party accompanying waterslide decals. These decals are bandai decals, so they're a little iffy, but I'll take these over the caution type stickers we got with the PGU RX-78 any day. Thank you for the waterslide decals, Bandai. I sincerely appreciate it. The nub placement on the new is a bit of a mixed bag. For about half the parts here, I want to say that the kit is undergated, which sounds awesome. The unfortunate thing about this gate placement is some of these undergated areas are within valleys of armor pieces. This means in addition to your sets of nippers and glass files, you'll need to keep an X-Acto blade on hand. Even if you can get to these undergates with your nippers, they should be completely removed so that the part can sit flush on the model, meaning you'll need to run the knife on the edge to carefully delete what's little left of this nub. It's not a problem, but it's just a little annoying, especially when you consider how many parts you're going to need to cut off the runner and clean. This got especially fatiguing during the funnel step, as the build is nearly completed, but every single groove of the funnel frame nubs need to be shaved down with a knife. The rest of the nubs on the kit are totally fine though. Even the nubs that are placed on the outside of a part without undergating are easy to cut and clean off with your glass file. What's better is even if you screwed up cleaning a nub, they would hardly be visible on the completed model, as most of the outward armor is undergated and would hide those ugly nubs. The nubs are undergated where it matters the most, and even though some of the gates are annoying, the end result is a kit that looks professionally cleaned and built out of the box. You can get away with the 2-cut method for most of the kit, with the few knife nubs being the exception. All this together makes for a decent time performing your prep work. When it comes to mold lines on the completed kit, I looked all over and really only noticed 2. Down the middle of the bottom of the bazooka, and down the middle of the top of the carry handle that's also on the bazooka. Kinda weird that the only 2 noticeable mold lines are both on the bazooka, with the rest of the kit not really having any noticeable mold lines at all. These mold lines would be easy to sand and clean up, but isn't too much of a big deal if you felt like ignoring it either. With this humongous build covered, let's get into the articulation. This will be done with the fin funnels removed, as that's just too unruly to try and show on camera. The head is on 2 swivels, one in the torso and one at the base of the neck, giving us very nice up and down movement for the head. With the ball joint, we can rotate the head 360 degrees all the way around. We can also tilt the head left to right about 25 degrees. The torso and waist is probably the most complex area of the build. The new Gundam can lift up in the waist. This allows us to crunch forward using the movement of the front cockpit armor, head swivel, and ab crunch that's within the cockpit area of the waist frame. All that works in tandem to get us a 25-degree forward ab crunch, which may be the most articulate ab crunch of any perfect grade to date. Within this torso lifting gimmick in the waist, we can lean the Gundam backwards about 35 degrees. Within the torso, there is a left to right leaning motion for a 10-degree lean left to right. Using this gimmick, we can also rotate the torso 360 degrees at the waist. Getting into the waist, the front skirts are on a double swivel connecting to the waist at a ball joint, allowing them to lift upwards, clearing the way for the leg to kick forward. The side skirts are at a swivel in the waist, with the armor connected to a ball joint at the end of this swivel, so we can lift the skirt upwards, as well as rotate it and swivel it around. The rear skirt is on a ball joint with a pin at the end, so it can really only swivel upwards 90 degrees, and really only has slight left to right rotation. The front and side skirts are built on a swivel so they can swing outwards out of the way. The entire upper waist platform can lean left to right. When combined with the upper torso lean, it gives a really nice lean left to right of the entire torso. Moving on to the lower waist, we have a few gimmicks here. The entire lower waist can swing forward. What this does is buy you a bit more articulation with the legs. It also unlocks the legs. With the legs unlocked, we can swivel them forward for a sort of dropping gimmick. This leg drop will buy you some increased articulation of the legs, kicking upwards of 130 degrees. The plastic joints that hold the leg peg are extremely delicate though, and too delicate for this articulation. The silver retaining ring around the two pieces that form the leg peg are liable to break if you try to articulate the leg too much. There's a lot of torsion put onto these pegs using the leg dropping gimmick. This gimmick is cool and gets you a high kick, but it's a part I do not trust and one I wish to have been made of metal. If you do use this joint, try to hold the leg peg swivel with your hands as you move the leg so you don't break anything. More of this leg and waist issue will be covered in the posability section. We've already established that with a sketchy maneuver, we can kick forwards 130 degrees. But if you'd like to play it safe and not use that leg dropping gimmick, we can kick forward 90 degrees. We can kick backwards 90 degrees as well. We can split out 90 degrees flat. However, I would caution you not to do this, which is covered in the posability section. The leg can rotate at the thigh 360 degrees. There is a double bend in the knee which allows us 150 degrees of leg compression. The ankle can swing forwards and backwards within the shin. The foot itself can swivel up and down. The foot can rotate 360 degrees with the armor flaps opened. The foot can tilt left to right in extreme amount. Finally, the foot can compress upward and the toe can swing upwards as well, which would be useful for crouching poses. The arms have a swivel in the torso that allows it to reach 70 degrees forward. The torso also has an upward swivel, allowing the arm to swing upwards 20 degrees. The shoulder armor can swing upwards 90 degrees. The shoulder itself can swing upwards independent of the torso swivel, giving us a full T-pose. The bicep can rotate 360 degrees. There is a double bend at the elbow for a full bicep curl. There's 360 degree rotation of the forearm at the bicep. The wrist itself can swivel up and down. Finally, the hand is on a ball joint so it can rotate and swivel as a ball joint does. The backpack doesn't have much articulation itself. The verniers can move, but it's so slight that it's barely noticeable. The funnel holder can swivel left to right, but is very tight. The beam saber rack can swivel left to right, and that's about it for the base of the backpack. The Perfect Grade New did add a support arm to the backpack, which is designed to work with the Hyper Bazooka. There are 7 points of articulation here that will allow you to swivel the arm in nearly any position so the new Gundam can get some help using the Hyper Bazooka. The funnels have articulation in a few areas. There are double swivels in the middle to allow the funnel to lay flat or to deploy into its U shape. On the outside of the fins, there are 2 swiveling sets of emitters that kinda look like teeth. These can swivel upwards for an attacking type of look. On the outside of the funnel is a hatch that can open and close. This is so you can attach the funnel to the action base adapter or to the backpack. It's nice that you can conceal this, and this is on all 6 funnels. With articulation covered, let's get into accessories. The new Gundam comes with 6 funnels, as we've already talked about. It also comes with the beam rifle. The new Gundam comes with the Hyper Bazooka, which has a swiveling handle and a swiveling carry handle. We get the wrist beam saber and its blade. We get the backpack beam saber and its respective blades. We get this absolutely massive shield. We get 2 shield arm connectors, one for each arm. We get a right side funnel rack adapter for the backpack, so we could evenly distribute the funnels if you so wish. We get 6 action-based adapters for the funnels. We get 6 funnel support pieces to keep them supported when closed. We get a spare frame for the face, so we can use the plated green eyes, the clear LED eyes, or the detailed frame eyes with clear green pieces. It's ultimately up to you. We get a sheet of cloth to recreate the opening of the Char's counterattack movie. For hands, we get 2 closed fist hands, 2 shooting hands, 2 open hands, and 2 movable articulated hands. We get a stand which is the same stand as the unicorns, but this one has an extension for the new Gundam and a support arm for the funnels. Last and certainly not least, we get an Amuro piloting figure, as well as an Amuro casual figure and a Chan Aggie saluting figure. Some very good value packed in here. Carrying on the torch from the first perfect grade, this new Gundam comes with a comprehensive open hatch gimmick. They even gave us a little tool to help with this, but I used my metal tweezers as they're more precise. For the legs, we can open the front hatch of the foot. We can open the front hatch of the shin, revealing a piston. We can open the rear heel armor. We can open both sides of the calf armor. We can open up the top of the knee. We can open up both sides of the upper thigh armor. We can open the rear of the upper thigh armor. For the last hatch on the legs, we can open the rear thruster armor. For the waist, we can drop down these front panels at the top of the skirt. The silver trim at the bottom of the skirt can drop downwards. The front middle of the waist armor can lower. The red armor in the middle of the waist can swing forward. On the rear skirt, the lower hatch can slide downwards. The upper red hatch at the top of the skirt can swing open. The last hatch is on the middle center of the waist armor, dropping down to reveal an attachment point. For the torso, the entirety of the front chest can open up. We will start with the mounting hard points on the front of the chest. We can open and lift the cockpit hatch armor, then the silver frame so we can open the cockpit itself. Say hello to Amuro. There are 2 white armor flaps that can swing open on the abdomen. The final hatch on the torso is the 2 side hatches on the top of the chest. The arms only have a few hatches. Starting with the shoulder, the top armor can slide outwards. Both sides of the shoulder armor can drop downwards. The top of the shoulder armor can lift upwards. On the bicep, there's hatches on both sides. On the forearm, there's hatches that can also open on both sides. For the head, we have 3 hatches. 1 on the top of the camera, which is super easy to open, and 2 on either side of the cheek. For the backpack, we have 2 hatches on both sides of the backpack itself, as well as on the back side of the backpack. These hatches really do not reveal much. The final hatches we have to open and look at are on the accessories. For the hands, on the movable hands, we can raise the tips of the fingers to show the balloon decoy barrels within. For the funnels, the tips of the funnels can slide out, revealing a green sensor. Once these tips have been slid out, you can swing open the funnel panel, which reveals the mounting pegs and sockets to attach the funnels to one another. Sliding the tip back into place locks this panel in place, preventing the funnels from falling apart. On the flip side, at the end near the swivels, those hatches can open up as well, revealing a lot of tubes and greebling. On the shield, we have 2 hatches that open up on the left and right top side. In the direct center of the shield, we have a little panel that can lift up and swing forward. This reveals 3 sort of mounting points on the shield. On the beam rifle, we can slide the fore end forward. We can lift the carry handle upward, and we can also detach the magazine. Our final bit of hatches is on the Hyper Bazooka. We can slide the barrel pretty far forward. We can also detach the magazine and even unload the rockets from within it, and that's pretty cool. Our final talking point before we get into the pros and cons is going to be the posability, and unfortunately, this is where we're going to talk about our first and pretty big con. With all this incredible articulation, we have a very expressive and impressive new Gundam. With the stand, the world really is our oyster as we're able to pose this kit off the ground and fully utilize its 0G weaponry. Now, before the new Gundam came out, early reviews and previews showed us 2 problems. The legs were droopy and would split out easily, and the funnels would weigh down the right side of the kit so much that the kit would lean to the right. The right lean has been well documented for this kit, and I added just a small amount of UV superglue to the lean socket, and this allows my new Gundam to stand straight with the funnels attached without the stand. This is great as it's one of those issues that has been fixed. With that being said, the weight of this kit is still so unruly that with the funnels attached, that any pose on the ground is going to be difficult to pull off, so you'll need to keep that in mind. If you were too worried about adding glue, there is the support arm for the stand that will hold the funnel rack for you when it's attached to the Gundam. It will be stuck to the stand, but with such an outrageous set of weapons, it's probably best to be on a stand anyways if we're being realistic. The second problem we saw in previews was the sloppy hip joint. I'm pleased to announce that this also has been fixed. However, to the model kit's detriment. When I make these reviews, I pose the articulation twice, once while writing the script, and the second time for the articulation portion. Unfortunately, my right leg peg for this kit got damaged just from the simple articulation tests, primarily in the splitting gimmick test. Let me be clear by saying I don't manhandle my kits, and I try to be as gentle with them as possible. This updated or fixed leg split articulation is far too tight. This is so tight, in fact, it not only damaged my waist peg, it also stressed out the thigh peg that connects the leg to it. I disassembled this thigh to waist joint and sanded it down on the inner circle, in the inner track, in the outer track, and the outer thigh socket itself. There was a lot of sanding involved with this. With enough sanding, I was able to get just enough tightness that felt comfortable, so the Gundam will be able to stand fully loaded with the funnels, but without splitting and breaking the inner leg and thigh peg. This is a tough predicament. The joint needs to be tight to handle the weight of the funnels without splitting out, but it also can't be this tight that it causes multiple areas to stress and potentially break. The leg peg in the waist should have been made out of metal so there would be no risk of breaking it, and the peg going into the thigh should have also been made of metal or some form of reinforcement to increase its strength. This all could have been avoided if the leg splitting articulation wasn't as tight as it is. Without all this sanding, I would not widen the stance of the new Gundam without being extra careful and bracing the leg joint in the waist as you moved it outwards, and I absolutely wouldn't split this kit out at all, ever. If you feel comfortable doing it, I'd recommend sanding the leg swivel so it was a little bit looser and less liable to break things. When I got this kit, I thought the lean would be the biggest problem, but unfortunately it's this hip connection. This really took the wind out of my sails when it came to posability. Kicking forwards or backwards is fine, but spreading outwards is a nerve-wracking experience and you need to be extremely careful and move these joints with a lot of support. When looking past this leg issue and after the leg has been sanded, I do want to say that the posability of this kit is absolutely top tier. The capabilities this kit has can pull off any number of poses, and this kit looks incredible while doing so. The many poses you see in the movie are easily handled here on the PGU New. I appreciate the forward thinking to include action-based adapters for the funnels so you can fully utilize this Gundam's payload and have an incredible display of this iconic Gundam. The Gundam is solid on the stand and I'm not worried about it toppling over, which fully opens the door for this kit to pose however you want it to. With my hip joint sanded, I'm more comfortable taking this Gundam out and testing its posability, as the margin for breaking these legs is now much slimmer with my modifications. If I mention a con or an issue in these videos, I at least tried to provide a decent fix for these issues. I want to give this kit the flowers it deserves for the posability. Its capabilities are there, it's just going to take some careful patience and maybe even some sanding to get you to this kit's full potential. We've reached the end of the video where we go over all the pros, the cons, and the mids, which are observations I noticed in the build but didn't quite fall into either category, as it's really determined by what type of builder you are. We like to keep it positive on this channel, so we'll cover the cons first, and if possible, I'll mention how to fix the con in that section as well. Our first con is what we just talked about in posability. This is the largest con as it's an inherent problem with this kit. I don't typically look at other reviews before I post mine, as I want my thoughts on a kit to be my own. I had to break that rule for this video so I could make sure I wasn't going crazy. I confirmed that I was not the only one to experience this issue with the hip tightness being too tight. I saw at least 3 other reports from people who've built it early say that they experienced the same issues with leg tightness. Yes, this is a big con. Yes, this is an expensive kit. Yes, you shouldn't have to modify a brand new kit to get the best results out of it. These are all true. You can sand it and make it reliable and significantly cut down on the possibility of parts breakage. It really pains me to write this con down, but I want you guys to go into this kit as well informed as possible. Be on the lookout for this hip joint as it also affects the leg peg and the thigh itself. Our second con is going to be a USA problem primarily, but it's the price of this kit. This kit's price is better when directly converted, making this kit about $470. I find that price to be more than fair. However, once it hits the States and goes through distributor and import fees, this kit is a whopping $688, but most states have tax, so let's just say $700 total. This is already a big turnoff for many builders, and that's a lot of money for something to collect and display. I think you'd have to be a pretty big fan of Gundam, or more specifically the new Gundam, if you wanted to add this to your collection. I know no matter what, some fans are just going to wait for a sale, and I can't really blame them. Our third con is going to be the LED unit. The LED unit is $150, which is quite expensive. Unlike the perfect grade Exia, there is also no contingency for building this kit first, then adding the LED module. The LED module must be installed during the initial build of the model. LEDs are becoming quite common in 1/100 scale models and have usually been included in perfect grades of the past. For Exia to be fully lit throughout the frame, it makes sense for this to be an additional add-on. But for the new Gundam to have such a minimal area for LEDs and still have an additional $150 module to purchase for it is just a bit too much for me. The LED module doesn't do enough to justify its high cost. There you go. That's my review of the LED module. I can't even seem to get one stateside right now, so it is what it is. With the cons covered, let's go into the mids. For our first mid, I'm going to mention panel lining, more specifically the interior armor greebling. Panel lining is great for outside armor, but the interior greeble panels of the armor are not easy to panel line and will be time consuming. This opens the door to a lot of paintwork and customization, but it's going to be a big project. If you want to see all these details brought to life through the open hatch gimmick, you'll probably want to panel line these, and the best way to do that is with a pen, which is going to be very time consuming. Our second mid is going to be the undergating. In certain areas, the undergating is incredibly annoying, placed within the valley of a part that your nippers simply can't reach. You'll need to keep an X-Acto blade handy to get these. It's not really a problem, just a little cumbersome to add another tool to your nub removal process. Now onto the pros. For our first pro, I want to mention the updated aesthetics. I know I sound like I have some recency bias with my reviews, but I want to emphasize that I really enjoy these modern updates that Bandai has been giving us with these newer model kits. For the new Gundam, this is everything I've ever wanted out of a 1/60 scale new Gundam. This perfectly encapsulates what models are as a hobby. A realistic representation of a war machine that we can bring home and build. This new Gundam has so many fine details on its inner frame, I honestly felt bad putting the armor on it. When the outward armor is applied, it still has a great amount of detail with the contrasting armor panels, really making this kit shine once it's completed. I love the look of this new Gundam very much. Our second pro is going to be the open hatch gimmick. This open hatch gimmick is phenomenal. It opens in so many areas and really shows off all that detailed inner frame. What I love the most about this open hatch gimmick is it does all this without compromising the stability of the kit. This kit isn't going to fall apart just because it has an open hatch gimmick. This makes me really want to build another one and go crazy painting all the details that you'll see when the frame is open. Anything that challenges you to be more creative is a big pro in my book. For our third pro, despite the issue with the hip, you are still able to get a very expressive new Gundam. There's options here for ground poses as well as in-air poses. The weapons have multiple gimmicks and allow them to be used in different ways. The fin funnels are able to be deployed out on an action base and came with a creative way to hide the action base adapter mounts. I didn't think there would be any solution for this, and thankfully there was. This may seem contradictory considering our first con is the posability for the hip issue, but if that issue is fixed by the builder, that really opens up a whole new world of fun to be had with this kit. I don't want to ignore the posability of the torso, the arms, or the funnels, which are all fantastic, especially at this scale size. Our fourth pro. Despite its high cost, we get a decent bang for our buck here. This kit took me a total of 60 hours from opening the box to panel lining, building, and adding the included water slide decals. This does not include the time for troubleshooting the hips. That's a decent amount of time for what I paid for this kit. To put it into perspective, the LEGO UCS AT-AT, which is $850, took me much less time to assemble and enjoy. This is subjective, of course, but something I spend more time building and gets my creative juices flowing is more valuable to me, especially if it costs less money. Furthermore, we get the full package here, with the photo etched parts, 3D stickers, and included water slide decals. With this one box, we can get a nearly perfectly completed model out of the box, and all that's missing is a can of matte clear coat. Our fifth and final pro is going to be the sheer shelf presence that this kit has. This perfect grade makes the other perfect grades look like small master grades by comparison. I understand this is due to the tall size of the new Gundam itself, but it needs to be mentioned here. This will be one of the first kits to catch anyone's eye in your collection. This kit is incredibly capable even at this size, and I think my B-roll in this video proves that. This kit even gives my Neo Zeongs a run for their money when it comes to shelf presence and sheer aura that's on full display here. The PGU new will immediately demand anyone's attention who looks at it. It's absolutely incredible. The Perfect Grade Unleashed New Gundam is a kit I really wish I could call perfect, but it does have a few issues with it that I find to be pretty big. But the moniker Very Great Unleashed doesn't sound too appealing, does it? So I get it. The important thing to note here is that these issues that the kit has with its side-leaning torso and tight hips is that both these can be easily fixed. I am in agreement with you that you shouldn't have to do this, but I think we need to look at this kit and be realistic about it. A 1/60 scale New Gundam is one of the most impractical things I could ever think of. The funnel rack being asymmetrical is an engineering nightmare. The only time a New Gundam really makes sense is 1/144 scale, as gravity plays a little nicer at that smaller scale size. Looking at our alternatives here, we have an expensive, rare, and discontinued metal structure figure that's a New Gundam in 1/60 scale, or we can get the bootleg of this figure for $500. Both alternatives lack the posability capabilities and don't even have an open hatch gimmick that's as expansive as the PGU. Based on those two factors, I'll pick the PGU all day, every day, and that's even if the metal structure was readily available. This kit gets a tepid recommendation from me. This is a build experience that's unmatched like any other. The prep work may take you a while, but once you start building, it's an incredibly fun time, and a kit I can't wait to build again in the future and really let my imagination run wild with. My hesitation with giving a full blanket recommendation is simply its price and those hips. This is a great kit, but it's not perfect, and its flaws are certainly fixable, but that price point here in the US is just very high. Fear of missing out shouldn't mean you find yourself in financial troubles because of a kit, no matter how amazing the building experience may be. If you wanted to wait for a sale or for third-party metal part upgrades to come out, I'd fully understand that perspective. If you watched this review and liked what you saw and don't mind making those small modifications to fully unlock this kit's potential, then you'll find yourself with a very rewarding display piece at the end and the best looking 1/60 scale New Gundam that money can buy. For a kit to celebrate the 45th anniversary of this hobby that I love so dearly, I'm happy Bandai put out this impractical behemoth of a kit. I'll be interested to see what Bandai has cooking for this kit in the future. The open hatch gimmick alludes to the heavy weapon system coming in the future, and the additional funnel rack on the back means that we might even get a second double fin funnel upgrade. There's even that mysterious mounting area on the shield that we don't have a full explanation for yet. I loved this kit despite all of its flaws and all. Thank you all so much for tuning into this review of the PGU New Gundam. This has been an incredible journey to build and get onto the channel. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my amazing subscribers. Your comments and subscriptions mean everything to me. You guys make the impossible possible. Until the next video, be sure to stay safe, have fun, and happy building.